So today we're going to unpack a pretty fascinating story. It's one where private wealth, state power, and national security all kind of crash into each other. It's all about a major Supreme Court ruling that involves one of India's most powerful families.
And really, this is the question at the heart of it all. It's a classic debate, right? State responsibility versus private need. So where exactly do we draw the line? I mean, especially when the stakes are this high.
Well, as it turns out, the nation's highest court has actually weighed in on this very question, and boy, did they deliver a definitive answer in a case that, you guessed it, involves Mukesh Ambani and his family.
To really get this story, let's actually start at the end, with the final verdict. So what did the Supreme Court ultimately decide?
Okay, so here's the big one. The court ruled that Mukesh Ambani and his family are to be provided with Z+ security cover. And get this, it's not just for when they're in India. The order explicitly says this top-tier protection has to be provided to them across the country and whenever they travel abroad.
Now, when we say Z+ security, you gotta understand, this isn't just a couple of guys in suits. We're talking about the absolute highest level of security detail in the entire country. A protective ring of elite, highly trained commandos. It's a huge deal.
Right, so a ruling this big, it doesn't just happen overnight. It was actually the end of this long, kind of winding legal journey that involved multiple courts and a pretty fundamental challenge to the whole idea of this security detail.
Believe it or not, this whole thing kicked off way over in the Tripura High Court. Someone filed a public interest litigation, a PIL, which is basically a legal tool that lets the public question government actions, and it put this whole security arrangement right under the microscope.
So you can see how this all escalated, right? It starts with that PIL in Tripura. The High Court then tells the central government, hey, show us the reports that justify this. But instead, the government appealed, taking the whole thing to the Supreme Court. And boom, that's how it landed in front of the nation's top judges, leading to this final verdict.
So what was the actual fight about here? You know, when you peel it all back, it comes down to this classic tug-of-war, a citizen's concern over using public resources versus the government's assessment of a very serious ongoing threat.
The two sides are pretty clear. On one side, you've got the PIL, which is basically asking, hey, why are public resources being used for a private person? And on the other side, the government is firing back, saying, look, this isn't random. This is based on a continuous threat perception.
And this threat perception thing, it wasn't just pulled out of thin air. The government's justification was built on some serious paperwork. We're talking formal assessments from the Mumbai Police, the Ministry of Home Affairs. These were the big security bodies that weighed in.
So, after looking at all this, the Supreme Court basically sided with the threat assessment. The judges pointed out that the family runs some of India's most important companies and, here's the key part, said there was no reason to disbelieve the threat to their lives. And that right there, that was the justification for keeping the security cover. Okay, so the state provides the commandos, the logistics, the whole security setup. But this leads to the question that's probably on everyone's mind. Who is actually paying for all of this?
Yeah, I mean, this is always the big hang-up in these kinds of debates, isn't it? If the government provides the service, who foots the bill? Well, on this point, the court was crystal clear.
The Supreme Court's order came with a very important string attached, and I quote, "The cost for the security will be borne by the businessman and his family only." So bottom line, the state provides the elite personnel, but the Ambani family pays for every single bit of it.
But you know, this ruling wasn't just about this one family. The court was trying to do something bigger here, to send a really clear message. In their own words, the judges said they wanted to put this whole thing to rest once and for all. They'd seen similar challenges pop up before, so they wanted to draw a final, clear line to stop this exact issue from being fought over in court again and again.
So let's just do a quick recap of the big takeaways here. 1. Z+ security for the Ambanis is a done deal. 2. This protection follows them everywhere, all over the world. 3. And this is so important, the family pays for all of it. And 4. This ruling was meant to be the final word on the matter.
And that leaves us with this really fascinating question to think about. This ruling basically creates a new model, right? State security, but privately funded. Does that change the whole nature of state protection? Does it create a new kind of service that's really only available to people who can afford it? It's a huge question, and the answer goes way beyond just this one case.